welcome to the Family Chats. It's Amanda and Jeanette, your host for today's episode. Also here with us is Maureen. She's our producer. Today we have a really fun show for you guys from one of our favorite shows, The Resident. Welcome our guests, Mark Rowe and Kim Mako, who played Richard and Mary Miller in season 4, episode 9, Doors Closing.
Yay! It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Welcome, guys. So I'll just kind of jump in with the first question, and then we can kind of just chat and go from there.
Sure.
And whoever wants to answer first, go for it. All right. Did you always know you wanted to be in the entertainment industry?
Kim, what do you think?
I would say, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I was kind of hamming it up as soon as I could walk and talk. I was kind of on my own little stage.
Yeah, that's. I think you get bitten at a certain age, right?
Yeah. And I was always in choirs and band. I was always performing in some kind of aspect. So yeah, I think it goes way back to the beginning. And it runs in my family too. So it's really not that much of a surprise.
Nice.
So are you a double threat? Can you sing too?
I used to do more music theater. When I was younger, I did summer stock. I spent one summer working at Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia, singing in the country show there. So I have had some work, but it's a long time ago now. And now I just kind of sing in the car.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and I did a play when I was in the Cub Scouts. I was actually pretty shy when I was a little kid, and I did this play, and it was magic. Like, it was certainly, I was bitten by the bug that made me want to do this forever. So I got involved in youth theater in the community. Then I was the lead in high school. I was Charlie Brown and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and all through the university. And as a matter of fact, when it came time for college, I told my parents, I said, I think I'm going to get a secondary degree in graphic design, so I have something to fall back on. And they're like, "Are you crazy? You've always wanted to be an actor." which is not the typical parental reaction.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so I was very lucky. And then what's funny is I moved to New York and things were going okay. I mean, I was, doing jobs here and there, but I wasn't landing the Broadway callbacks and things. So I decided to delve into the graphic design stuff in my 30s. I said, let me make some money with something that I enjoy. And my parents were disappointed. They're like, "Oh, why are you giving up so soon?" And my dad would call me I quit for like 10 years. He'd call me, he's like, "I just saw a movie and you would have been so much better in that role." I'm like, "Gosh, this is so crazy." So I kind of got back into the business, and they couldn't have been happier. So I'm happy to be back.
Not the typical story.
No.
It's not. And what's crazy, they don't even come from, I think I took them to see the first show that they ever saw. Like I was working backstage on the tour of Cats that would go around from town to town. I was working in the wardrobe department, and they had never seen a Broadway style show before. And so you'd think if they came from a theater background, they'd be like, well, it's in the family. But I think it was just such a novelty for them, and they saw the dream for me, and they, believed in it. I think sometimes more than I believed in it myself, which is incredible support. So yeah, I've been lucky.
Yeah, I always felt like I could sing. I always could sing. I always had a musical ability, but I didn't have, like what it takes to be on Broadway. I wasn't like an Olympic singer.
Mm-hmm.
I could just sing like a normal person.
Yeah, I think my fall or pitfall, my weakness would probably be dance, because I can move. I was in a lot of musicals, and give me the choreography and I'll go off for a day and work on it and then come back. But it's not really the way Broadway works. I had a callback for Miss Saigon, and the lead guy, Chris, doesn't dance as far as I knew, but we're on the Broadway stage that's raked and we're doing this number, and I look like a fish out of water. So they're like, well,
Yeah.
vocally you might have been ready, but physically, dance wise, you need to work on it. So
I can only imagine.
So tell us about like your time on set. Did you do you have any favorite memories, or what were the other cast members like? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'll start. Definitely my absolute favorite memory was Bruce Greenwood was so generous to me. Because of COVID, especially, it was a very, very long day because you're constantly going in and out of the room that you're filming so that they can fumigate it. So, and it's on a clock. So I think it was every hour and a half, everyone had to leave and they fumigated the room. So there was a lot of downtime and waiting and shuffling around.
Oh, wow.
And so, hanging out with Bruce Greenwood, which was awesome. And he's such a nice man. And as the hours ticked by, I finally got up the courage to just say, hey, my aunt is a huge fan. She's a fan of you. She's a huge fan of the show. And he offered immediately for us to FaceTime her. And I don't have an Apple phone. So he was like, well, let's find one. I mean, he was doing everything he could so that I could call my aunt. And it was just so strange that he was bending over backwards, which number one, just speaks to what a just nice and generous person he is. But secondly, also how dedicated he is to his fan base, that he just wanted to reach out immediately and contact her. So Mark very graciously offered his Apple phone and we were able to FaceTime my aunt who was in New Jersey.
Wow.
And I'm very happy and surprised to get a video call from Bruce Greenwood and with me behind him going, hi, and she's so funny. I think he said something about he had lived for a time in Princeton, New Jersey. He was, just connecting with her. And she said, well, I thought you were from Canada. And he said, well, I am, so they had this whole nice conversation. So that definitely for me stands out as a very personal time on set. So
That's awesome.
What a cool story.
It's such a wonderful thing, too, because it wasn't the gratuitous, like, let's take a picture together, which is nice enough. But he was really, really persistent in making sure we could make this FaceTime call. And you think about it, he had a lot to say in that scene. So he could have, he had a lot of work to do. Like, he could have been like, oh, I'm in my head. I can't really take time to do that. But he really took some time. And
he had that whole big monologue at the end.
Yeah.
He just was right with me, just wanting to make that call with me. And he was so generous. He really was.
He was, yeah.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, I think my memory, or what I think of when I look back on it, it feels so long ago, is the just the presence of realizing the whole COVID experience was something unique to that job, having to test. And you're so nervous to test before, because you think, well, not only do I have to fear if I test positive going through COVID or infecting more vulnerable people around me, but losing a job that you beat out thousands of other people for.
That's a good point.
So a few weeks before that, I had a show that was here in Atlanta that I came down and I had to quarantine for 5 days before, and I tested positive, and it was a false positive, but I didn't know that for 24 hours. So I went through the ringer. I was taking care of my mom, who's 82, and I thought, well, she's probably has it if I have it. So didn't know until later that it was, but at that point I could have lost the job. Luckily they said they would wait for me to shoot it after I was well, which how often does that happen? So it's a lot of people don't realize, there was a conversation about mask wearing. Will you continue wearing a mask? And I said, it's not, I mean, even though I'm vaccinated, it's not necessarily about just staying as healthy, as it is losing a job, because they don't care if, you're asymptomatic or not. If you test positive, you will not work.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to think about.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so what was, other than the COVID part, what was like the filming process like, and how long were you guys on set for that one scene?
We were called for, was it 6 a.m. or 7 a.m.?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah, it was
Six.
early, 6 or 7.
Yeah, 6:30 in the morning was our call time. And where they film is just outside of Atlanta. So
Conyers, Georgia.
Conyers, yeah. So you're up and then having to drive there. Luckily, because I don't know Atlanta that well, I live in Asheville. We had a wardrobe thing a few days before, so I had a chance to do a test drive to the location. So I wasn't just like, oh my God, I don't know where I'm going. I hope I don't get lost. I had already done it once, so that was kind of, that was helpful. You get there and then you go to what's called base camp, where they have a trailer space set up just for you, and you go in and your costume is hanging in there, and any jewelry or any other pocketbook, things like that. And we were there. I think we left at about 5, didn't we? It was about 6:30 in the morning to about 5 in the afternoon, and
Wow.
it's 2 very small scenes, as you know. But because they have to shoot all the different angles around the room, the camera sets up for each one of us for all of our reactions. And then when you add in the COVID time for that, it really makes for a long day. Plus, it's a SAG set, SAG-AFTRA, and there are certain breaks that they have to give us for meals and things, for union rules. So when all is said and done, 6:30 in the morning to 5 o'clock, it's a long work day.
It's a long day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they have like different cameras set up in there at the same time, or did they each shot was a different angle with one camera?
So, Mark, I would explain it. So it's like a group of cameras that sets up in one spot, but then they move around the room to get setups for each actor. And that's another point, is that in these 2 scenes, there's a lot of people.
Mhm.
Doing a scene that's only 2 people and it's 2 setups, but because there was me, there was Mark, there was our daughter, there's the doctor, there's the couple, that's a lot of people in a hospital room. And when they want to get those close-up shots of our reactions, that's a camera setup for each time. So it takes time to do that.
Well, and what's interesting too is that they consider that coverage. Now the coverage is on you, the coverage is on them. A lot of times you'll do the scene and you're like, oh, that was really great. I really feel good about that. And you realize the coverage wasn't on you, it was on them. So you're like, oh, I hope I can do it that way again. So then they turn everything around and you have to, of course, leave while they reset. It's like, and there's walls coming out, because those hospital rooms are fairly small. So all those walls, it's all a fake set. So everything just pulls apart. So you're just standing there and you're like, oh, there was a wall here. Now there's a whole group of people. So it's pretty magical, that side of it. But yeah, all the setups and all those readjustments, they do take time.
Wow.
What would
There's a
you
lot
say
of
your
people
biggest?
in there when you think about, sorry, just going to say,
You're
and
fine. Go ahead.
with that whole, all those cameras, there's a lot of crew in the room.
Mm.
And, and everyone's wearing masks, and there was one person who was just in charge of collecting the actors' masks right before we went to shoot. She would rush up with a plastic bag. We each had a plastic bag with our name on it. We had to rip our mask off, throw it in our bag, and then she scooted out of the way, and then they're rolling.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it was funny. I arrived with a mask I was awfully proud of, and as soon as I got there, they said that's not a Disney approved mask, and I'm like, well, are we at Disney? Where's Magic Mountain? Where's Space Mountain?
Because they own Fox now.
They own Fox,
Yeah.
so apparently, it's Disney approved. So it was I still have it. I'm actually very proud of it. Wish I had Mickey on it or something, but we used that one. So yeah, it's interesting the level of protection. Oh, and that's what I brought it up for. We wore the masks up until, I think did we rehearse with the masks on? It was at a point where we were all there getting ready to shoot, and we took the masks off, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, we didn't realize you had that mustache. Like, it kind of startled us. They're like, we've been with you for 4 hours today. We didn't even know you had a mustache. So
That's awesome. So I'm curious, what is the Disney approved mask?
it's just a nice, I guess maybe a nicer quality. It was like a gray with
Oh,
yeah, it was.
It came up really high on the nose. Like it was better coverage than any of the masks that I owned. They also gave me one. The one I came with was also not good enough. And I'm still using the mask they gave me. It's been washed many times. It's my favorite one.
Yeah. It had Mickey Mouse ears attached to it too. So.
that's how all masks should be. I think everyone should be like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would you say your biggest challenge in taking on this role was? Like, was there any aspect of yourself that you put into it?
I think for me, probably the hardest aspect was that the character is not like me at all. And, you know, and then, so the challenge of knowing that I'm not like Mary Miller at all, and I would not have made a choice like that at all, but also trying to portray her as a loving mother who loves her daughter and really wants what's best for her. You know, she's not a monster. She just, you know, she has her, I don't agree with her, but the challenge is to present her as a compassionate and real person. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it was, I loved the idea from the moment I auditioned for it. I'm actually a gay man. So to have an audition or have a role where I can play a homophobic person and it's telling the story of homophobia. And I had a friend say, gosh, you know, isn't that weird that you're gay and you're playing this hateful person? I said, who better to know that situation than someone who's been through it? You know, I've been on the receiving end of the same glances I'm giving those guys. And it was kind of fun to be that person, you know, not that I never want to be that person in real life, but just to be that, I don't know, a person that'd never be, obviously, in real life, was kind of a fun little reversal, to the point we were saying earlier that the guys were, as actors, when we would take breaks, they kind of stayed on their side of the hallway. We sort of stayed on our side. And I thought, oh gosh, I hope they don't think that this is really us. I wanted to kind of out myself to them, but I thought, well, this is really not, doesn't matter. And I also made a joke when we cut at one point. I said, guys, lunch today is on us, Chick-fil-A for everybody. So they might have thought that I was really, you know, all in the hateful homophobia. But so it was, yeah, I guess that for me, that was the challenge, is to tell that story from this point of view.
I just add, you know, another challenge is the fact that there is so much time, and you do have to keep your energy up, you know. You know, granted, when we showed up at 6:30, we weren't on set yet. You know, we got into our costume, we went and had our hair and makeup done. But pretty soon, you know, I would say by 8 o'clock, we were definitely in rehearsal in the room where we were going to be shooting. And, you know, it takes a lot of stamina, even though these are 2 small scenes. You know, you think about the people who are on these shows who are regulars, you know, and they're doing this every day.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of energy to keep that up and to keep yourself alive for the camera and interactive with the other actors. You know, I have so much respect for them.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me what they do.
Piggybacking on that, you kind of forget, you know, you're living these moments as truth. So, you know, just coming around the corner for us, we had to remind ourselves we're running through a hospital because of our daughter, and we don't know exactly if she's okay or not. So we had to keep, I mean, even though you don't even see us, you know, until we get into the doorway of the room, but we turn the corner when they cued us with that level of energy and pace and all of that, because you just have to be coming from somewhere, you know, it doesn't just start and you go. And it's funny too, because in our audition, we only got our lines, and maybe, well, I'm sorry, we get our lines in the scene, but we didn't hear the doctor's whole monologue. So the first time we're hearing it is the first time we're hearing it. So you're processing it as a character, trying not to process it as yourself, you know, because the camera's rolling and you're hearing it, and I'm sure we rehearsed it once or twice before, but still there are times Mark was hearing his speech and was moved by it because it's beautiful. The words are beautiful, and his points about, you know, children and parents becoming, you know, one at the same time and all of that, you're kind of like, oh wow, that's beautiful. And I'm like, no, I'm not supposed to like that. I'm supposed to, you know, so you have to really stay in the character and be as honest as possible. And the reason I say that is because it is exhausting. You know, there are times that a friend of mine had said, you know, you actors, I never know if you're lying, you know, and I said, well, that's bad acting, because good acting is being as honest as possible, you know, not lying. Because as humans, we know when someone's lying, and whether they're pretending in a scene as an actor or not. There's a show I did called FBI, and I seem to have troubled daughters, but my daughter was involved in a bad situation, and there's a shootout, and at one point they take me hostage, and the gun goes off, and the director's like, I feel like you know when it happens that you didn't get shot, but at that point you don't know if you got shot, so keep that in mind. And so I let out a scream as just the real, I don't, it was so earnest and honest, but it turned out it was quite high pitched. And I didn't care, because I was like, you know what, that was real. That's exactly, you know how real life is pretty awkward at times. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful when it's awkward. And we pray for those unrehearsed, you can't rehearse how you're going to scream. But anyway, so when it came out, my friends were kind of ribbing me a little bit. That was a very manly scream. And I said, you know what? I don't even care, because it was real. It was real. But so that's when you watch actors, and you just think, you know, you have to go through that terror and all of those things, or it's not fun to watch.
Yeah. I had a writing teacher who always used to say that good writing evokes sensation. And that's the same thing with acting, that's when you really relate to someone, is when, I mean, that scene that you guys had with your daughter was like, I felt that. It was a really intense feeling that you guys were able to portray, because you were stepping into it honestly.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
I feel like when I realized the magic of camera, because stage acting is much different than camera acting. And I learned the magic of camera is just constantly pretend it reads your mind. You don't have to show, I don't have to go like that. Just know that if I'm thinking it, you guys are seeing it, because it's all about the eyes, you know? So, sorry.
Definitely. So did you guys learn anything from this experience that you'll take into future auditions or roles?
I always learn something from every experience. Kim, do you have anything? And I'll process and think what it was on this one.
I mean, the list is really long. I mean, just there were so many experiences that day. It's hard to say if there was like one, I don't know if there was one huge concrete thing that I learned. I think you also learn, part of what I learned was when it was over and then later seeing it. So watching it on TV after I had had the experience of doing it, that for me is a big learning point, because then I can put together in my head what it felt like to do it versus how it came across on camera. So that probably is my biggest learning takeaway that I got a couple months later. You know?
Yeah, I guess for me, one of my acting teachers here in Atlanta was on, I believe it was the next episode, in the tornado
yeah.
episode. He was the maintenance guy that ended up with a rod or whatever in his neck. And the hair and makeup people were so fantastic on the show. And so I think everyone going through the pandemic and having to do the masks and having to do the tests, I think it puts you through a lot as a team. So everyone you have to be a little bit nicer to everyone, because we're all in it together, and no one wants to wear a mask. No one wants to want to go through all that. But so I think there was a camaraderie, even more so than a typical show. And afterwards, he sent a note. He said, "Oh, the hair and makeup team thought you guys were just so lovely. They were talking about you from the last show." And so it was such a wonderful team effort that I think it taught me to take that, post-COVID, and be as generous and as nice, and, that you hope that they talk about you, after you've left, because we're guests. That's the thing. We're guests of their show. That this is their show. This is their home, and it's such an honor to be there, and a dream for us to be there. So, to treat it as anything less than that is just terrible. Like to
Totally
come in
agree.
and just be grateful and friendly, and I think a lot of times as actors, your own insecurity can get in your way, and you show up and you might want to, act like, oh, this is my second home. It's like, no, it's not our second, just chill out. We're lucky to be here. So I think for me, the short answer is just to take that feeling of love, the bubble, and bring it into jobs in the future.
Yeah, kindness goes a long way. And not to constantly bring it back to Bruce Greenwood, but I'm not going to forget that story. I'm not going to forget the experience I had. He was so kind to me that I'm never going to forget that. I think just kindness really goes a long way. It's important.
And how relevant is that to what everyone's going through right now generally? I mean, we all need to understand that concept much, much better than we do now.
Totally.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if for this last year and a half that we all were just kinder to one another and didn't get into fights that end up in social media and fighting about stupid stuff? Like, come on, guys, people are dying and we're fighting about really stupid stuff. Why don't we just step up and love one another, realize we're all on the same boat, we're all going through. So
but all things can be solved via anger on social media, though.
Oh yeah, it changes so many minds.
I do have a question about hair and makeup, though. You brought that up. Now, were they the ones who inspired the mustache, or do you just always have the mustache? Because that's a pretty magnificent mustache you got going.
Thank you. You know what? You can see I'm kind of growing a little beard out right now. I've had a beard for I don't know, 10 years, and about 2 years ago, I did a movie called The Conjuring, Conjuring 3. And they said in the makeup chair, they didn't even warn me. They said in the makeup chair, we have to shave you down to a 80s cop stash. And I go, no. I'm not going to wear one of those ridiculous mustaches. And then, of course you say yes. But, and then I was like, wow, it kind of works with the uniform. And everybody seemed to love it. They were like, wow, that's such a great stash. So I said, you know what, to my agent, I go, maybe I should keep it for a little while and see what happens.
Absolutely.
And since then, I've booked Yellowstone and a couple more cop things. And
mustache has been really good to you.
It's been good to me. It's a casting director said, I think that's your Sasha Fierce, to your Beyonce. Like you get the mustache is there. You could just act underneath it. But I like it. It's grown on me, pardon the pun.
Suits you very well.
Thank you. I don't mind if people talk about typecasting. I love being typecast because that means you're cast. So keep the share roles coming, and yeah.
Kim, I know you had kind of mentioned hair and makeup in the last video about your amazing Karen hairdo.
Yeah.
You want to tell me a little bit about
He's-
that experience?
Yeah, they spent a lot of time with a curling iron on me. A lot of curling iron and a lot of, getting in there with combs. And it lasted all day. I got to the room at, 8 a.m. till 5, and my hair was crunchy when I took a shower. So it held up. They did their job really well.
It was great. It looked great. I love it.
Yeah, the hair and makeup trailer is always a fun place to go. It's, they're always nice people, and they're really good too about helping you with information. If you have questions about the set or where to go or who is who, they just know what's going on. They have
the gossip.
They have the gossip, they have the info.
The really important stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a fun place to be while you're, getting ready to start the day. It's good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That and catering.
Ooh.
We love catering. I always say that the breakfast burrito on set is the best. I don't know why it's the best breakfast burrito. Like, there's something about set. I say I will work for breakfast burritos. Don't pay me, just give me it.
I didn't have breakfast. I was too nervous. I just coffee. I was like, I got to get started here. I'll eat later.
Nothing stops me.
I'm with you, Mark. I could eat at all times.
Oh.
So my next question is kind of a fun one. Do you all have any favorite TV shows that you would love the chance to work on, or maybe an actor or actress that you'd love to work with?
I know my answer right away. And, for me, this answer changes as things are on, but I would do anything to be on Ozark.
Heard that's a really good show.
It is.
Yeah, it shoots in Atlanta too, so it's within my market here, and I think it's incredible the stuff they're doing on the show. I've seen every episode so far, and the acting is incredible. I love the story. The whole tone of it. That's definitely my answer for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, definitely Ozark. It pains me because I've auditioned for it many times. It's right in my wheelhouse, but somehow the shoe has not fit. So definitely Ozark, because I don't know an actor that wouldn't want to work on Ozark. But I've had a few close calls with Chicago Fire, so I'm going to get as much fire chief realness out of this mustache as I can.
Yes,
So
you would be perfect for that.
Yeah, I've come close. As a matter of fact, I've come close. But I think anytime you watch a show that you just go, wow, that's so great, that you kind of go, I wish I was a part of that. I was watching Halston this morning, and really, really fun period show. And Bill Pullman is in it. I love Bill Pullman.
What about that show? Yeah, I'm curious about that.
What was it?
Yeah, it's called Halston, about the designer.
I never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really great. Ewan McGregor will probably win an Emmy for it because he's spot on. I actually auditioned for it when I was living in New York, but I was, what's his name? It's Epstein. And I just don't look Jewish. So when I auditioned, I thought, well, this isn't the role for me, but I'm going to do my best because at least they'll maybe consider me for something different. But so anyway, it's a great show. So I think any show you watch that you just like, that was a great one.
That's great. I love Ozark too. I haven't missed an episode.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I just heard that it's really good.
I think my husband watched it, but I haven't seen it. So now I may have to go back and check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite right now.
Definitely worth to watch. The things happening right now.
Yeah.
Has me on the edge of my seat. I can't wait for it to come back.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I did just watch the preview, Mark, for the one you're watching right now, and it does look pretty good. I almost hit play, but then I saw A Woman in a Window with Amy Adams. I saw that one up, and I was like, I'm gonna watch that one instead.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there's so much content. There's so many great shows, and and even if you sometimes you're on a show and you don't know if your character doesn't die, there's a chance to come back. And I did Yellowstone, which was one of my favorites, and my character sort of makes a pact with the family and to return a favor. And so my friend's like, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? My phone has not rung. So you're just hoping that, it happens. Kim and I were hoping that maybe this couple would learn their lesson and come back maybe, and come around and say, you know what, we've learned our lesson. But if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I was actually kind of glad that it didn't happen, because it shows the tragedy of the sadness of those situations where sometimes amazingly wonderful parents are denied that opportunity because of someone's beliefs. So it doesn't always have a happy ending. Rarely does it. So
I think that's what I like about The Residents. There's a nice balance between realism and also it manages to give you the hard truth with also providing you hope for what's coming. And there's not a lot that can do that.
Yeah.
It's true. That's a good point.
So have you guys ever done, I should have looked at your IMDb profile, but I haven't been able to do it today. But have you guys ever done like a period piece or ever thought of period pieces? I'm trying to picture you guys in like Regency clothing, which sounds weird. I know it sounds weird that I'm trying to picture that right now, but it's not a weird thing.
It doesn't sound weird at all. I picture myself.
I could see you as like 30s and 40s, flapper.
Ooh, a flapper, yeah.
Yeah, or I'd love to be, like a person on the Titanic,
Ooh.
Kind of high neck or something.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But you could play, what was her name, Mrs. Brown?
Yes, Mrs. Brown. Yes, totally. Yeah, but no, I haven't. I would love to. That would be fantastic. Have you, Mark?
I was an extra on A Beautiful Mind, and that was really fun because that was period. But you don't really see me because I'm an extra. But,
yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I'm gonna go back through and watch that and try to find you in all the scenes.
I took and there was hope because I worked like 3 days on it in the Pentagon scene, and I was so excited. My parents, we watched, and I'm like, that's me, and I'm literally a blur in the background. I'm almost like, Mark, I'm so proud of you blurring yourself in the background. But two things, a project that will be coming out in July that I'm not really allowed to talk about, takes place in the 80s, and then The Conjuring that comes out on June 4th, I think it is 80s as well. Very 80s, like the cars are, it's fun to have that whole, everybody smoking cigarettes. And,
even the doctors.
Even the doctors, yeah. That's nice.
The Conjuring, those are some of my favorite movies, so that makes me really excited.
This one's going to be a good one. Have you seen the trailer?
I've seen the trailer. I pulled it up for my husband as soon as I did, and I was like, okay, we're going to go watch this.
Yeah, it's
going
to be good.
Now you have an even more of an excuse to go see it because you know somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm only in one scene, but it's a good little scene, and I don't die, so just give me the I had never seen them before, and I didn't realize, because when I auditioned for it, it was called The New Line Project and Untitled New Line Project. And when I booked it, I was like, Conjuring 3 sounds terrible. The third of anything, you're like, wow, do we really need that many? But then I went back and watched them. I was like, no, this is no joke horror stuff.
And there's even more, because there's like the other spin-offs from it too. So there's lots of different.
Yeah. A friend had to show me how naive I was. She's a big horror fan. She's like, Mark, it's if you're gonna do a horror movie, you should do one with Vera Farmiga.
Definitely.
It's
amazing.
It's fun.
So I actually just started Yellowstone, and I haven't seen you yet, but I am trying to watch it.
Nice. Yeah, that's a fun show.
Yeah, I've seen a couple episodes, and then I didn't have the streaming program that I needed to finish it, but I definitely wanted to, so I need to do that.
Where did you shoot that, Mark? Where were you?
In Utah. And they've moved production to Montana, but it was right outside of Park City. We landed in Park City, and it wasn't until the night before that I didn't know I wasn't going to Montana. A lot of times as actors, well, I auditioned for that my manager thought that the auditions were in New York. She's like, I got you an audition for Yellowstone. And I said, well, that's great, but I'm not in LA where the auditions are. And she's like, oh no. The same casting director cast Ray Donovan. So she thought, oh, well, they must be in New York. So she said, well, I'll see if they can let you put yourself on tape, which you kind of feel like, all the other actors are in the room. And there's a certain advantage, a certain energy. You get redirects from being in the room. So I was kind of disappointed in that, but I was still excited to have the opportunity to send them the tape. So I ran to a self-tape place and put it on tape and sent it off and booked it, and didn't know till the night before that we weren't going to Montana, but it was Utah. And it's such a fun show and such a fun genre and the whole Western thing. And I didn't meet, everyone was like, did you meet Kevin Costner? And say he wasn't in the scene I was in, but Wes Bentley, I hadn't seen with him. He couldn't have been nicer. I've always been a fan of his. And
Oh yeah, he's wonderful.
he's so great. Since American Beauty, I've always.
I love him in that movie.
He couldn't have been more just polite. At one point, there's in the back and forth, I took maybe a little bit longer of a pause before I reacted to something than I do, and he went on with a line, and I said, after we cut, I go, I'm so sorry. I said, I think I might have a little bit more to that line. And he goes, I am so sorry. He goes, guys, I screwed up. Can we, and I was like, I was kind of embarrassed because he was being so nice about it and just apologetic. I go, no. I said, I'll just make sure to kind of tighten it up a little bit so doesn't seem like the end. So he couldn't have been nicer. And the whole show it's just the horses and all of that stuff. It's
oh gosh, I'm sure it was gorgeous out there.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've always
That's one of the things about being an actor. It's like you never know where a job is going to take you or the adventure you'll have. It's fun.
I wanted to speak to the sending in an audition tape. Is that something that is, I mean, obviously with COVID, that's probably more common now, sending in your audition tape, but is that something it wasn't that common before to do an audition tape? I just assumed they were all like that.
It was common in the Southeast market. This market has been doing self-tapes since around 2013 is when it became kind of a regular thing. So it's been going on down here for a while because the market is so spread out. But in other markets like Los Angeles and New York, it had been an in-person mainly audition experience. So yeah, it's just kind of different. Of course, now everybody's doing self-tapes because of COVID. And the question remains, will it go back or will it stay this way in places like New York and LA? And no one seems to know right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that.
It sounds like they might be leaning towards the initial stages of auditions being self-taped, which those of us in the Southeast market had a little bit of an advantage because we already had all the camera and the lights and the backdrop and all set and the finesse of doing it. And I think New York and LA actors had to play a little catch up in going on Amazon and buying their kits to self-tape. Because both have advantages and disadvantages. Being in the room, you get to say, hey, to that casting director that you obviously want visibility and them to see that you're not a crazy person. And because there are a lot of crazy actors out there. And so seeing you face to face, you get that. And also the energy, your energy is up. You've taken transportation to get there. You've been thinking about it and all that. When you self-tape, you could be naked from the waist down. Hopefully not. But
there's also, you don't have the opportunity to get a redirect from the casting director, So that's the biggest disadvantage.
Which really applies to the resident because I got one of a very rare redirect when I first auditioned and sent my tape in. I really saw these parents as just dyed-in-the-wool believers and just very stern. And so they came back and they said, we need to see more love from you. We need to see, don't forget this is your daughter. And so it's really hard for you to say that, yeah, you will kick her out. Before I think I put a button on it, which is you add your own little line at the end that I said, it's not going to happen. And I walked out the door. And so they said, soften it up a bit. And so, so it was I love when they do that because it's fixable. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting that close. All I have to do is take your direction and do it. And I might get the role. And so, yeah, it was nice to get a little, you wish you always got feedback because
yeah, you do. It's unusual to get a redirect like that from a self-tape. So
yeah,
fantastic.
it's a shot
That's
in the
because
dark.
they knew you from other auditions you had done, and they knew that you could get them what they needed, you know, because you had already done good work for them. So.
Thank you. Well, that's the thing, like every audition, it's not always just for that role. You have to realize it's a date with the casting director, and you're giving them which I can't remember who it was that said it, but they said, you know, every audition is a page in that book of you for that casting director. So it's a new page that they get to see, hopefully different from the last. And it might not be the right fit right then, but they'll be like, remember that part of the book where he gave us that flavor? Let's see if we can, you know. And another sort of downfall about self-taping is that we as humans are never satisfied with anything. Yep. So you really can run the risk of spending all day trying to go over it. And your poor reader is just like, okay, it's enough after 15. So I think as an actor, it's good to say, you know what? I'm going to do 3 and I have to get it in 3. Because what happens if you become too comfortable with just doing it over and over and over again until you get it, you're not going to have that luxury on set. Yeah. So you're going to condition yourself to say, oh, let's do it again. Sorry, you get 1 or 2 takes per setup, you know?
Yeah. I imagine that would deaden the character a little bit too. If you have to repeat. I imagine that some of the feeling and some of the honesty is going to go away a little bit there.
Well, yeah, you're right. And also there's something about gripping too hard. You know, I had an audition a week or so ago for something that was recurring and I really wanted it. And so I put so much into it. And I spent probably 8 hours auditioning, and it was a monologue. So I was able to kind of just do it. And I was exhausted. And I sent it to my manager and I go, oh, it's broke. I don't know what's happening. I'm not there. I'm not doing it. And he goes, you're not. He goes, this is not you. This is, I don't know what he goes, I think you're overthinking it. Because I can actually see you thinking. So you're overthinking it. And I just go, throw it all away and just say the words as fast as they come into your head. You know, like I was gripping too hard. And I think in life, in the law of energy and in the law of attraction, you can't grip too hard on anything. It's the things you want the most, those jobs you want more than anything, you don't get. It's the ones you like, they want, because I mean, that's more attractive when you're like that, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know I'm not an actor, but I help run this podcast and I do another one. But when I do my other podcast, so I asked about period pieces. I do one on the Sanditon because I love Jane Austen, but I sit in front of my own camera and I do it on my own. And I did one with Amanda and Jeanette the other day, and I had to keep restarting because I get nervous even just by myself. It's a weird thing, and I'll have to be like, oh no, start again. Oh, I'll just edit that out. I'll start again. And it takes me. I'm down in my podcasting room all day because I do that. And from now on, I'm going to say 3 and done. If you don't get it in 3, you're all done.
But you know what?
3 and done is a great rule to have.
3 and done is great, but you will get better and better and better. You know, the more you do it, the more. That's why it's funny. Like from the outside, it's like, oh, I could be an actor, but you don't realize, you don't realize how many things come into play the moment you're on set with the lights and the. It's much more overwhelming than it seems. Just that, oh, everybody looks comfortable. You're being a human. I could be a human. It's like.
I could not be a human.
you probably could. It just takes that, doing it enough to where you're not thinking about all those things again.
You'd be a great human, Maureen.
I see you as a human. I think I can see it.
I'm not in the other category.
Yeah, it's great fun though.
Yeah, I enjoy it. And I you guys are a delight to talk to. Like I could just talk to you guys all day long. I think this is fun.
I'm having a blast too. Talking about ourselves. Who doesn't love that?
Yes, right? There was
Let's
you
talk more
said
about ourselves.
you said something earlier about the beautiful mind, and it reminded me. I have 3 little girls, and my youngest is 2. She loves Monsters Inc. Right, and that Mike Wazowski, when he finally gets on the cover of the magazine, and it's just from here up, and he's like, "I was on a magazine." And when you said that, it made me think of you, and you're like, "That's me in A Beautiful Mind." Just a blur, but it's me.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
is anything. That's good.
Yeah, you never know in this business. You hold your fingers crossed, praying that you didn't get cut from the scene.
Yeah.
One of my first jobs was on that show Scandal, and I didn't know till the night before. The casting director's like, "Your scene got cut," and I said, "Was I terrible? Is that why?" He goes, "No." He goes, Scandal was such a fast show that they would overshoot for little fill-ins, and I guess I was a fill-in.
Hey, you know what? At least they told you. A lot of times an actor will work a job and they sit down, a couple months later, weeks later to watch the show.
They've told all their family.
Right, all their family, and then they're just not there.
Yeah.
You got a Joey Tribbiani situation.
Right.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is that something that's common that they do, is overshooting just to make sure they get it all?
I think depending on the show. Yeah, depending on the show. I think if it's a show about pace, and Scandal was one of the few shows that every actor that auditioned for would get the note, "Great, do it again as fast as possible." Like you're like, I can't even say it that fast, but it was, if you go back and watch it, it was so fast.
Yeah.
And so timing that, I think, is different. So my scene, I was a locker bay attendant, and they had some evidence hidden in the locker. And so when they came to get it, I explained that on Fridays we take it out, we put it in this room, but you want to wear these gloves because everything's, this whole thing. And then in the actual episode, she opens it and the stuff's all there. So they didn't even need me. I'm like, why did they write a scene like that? That was not even, now I look like
It's all about the story.
Yeah.
It's all about the
It's
story.
not about us. We want it to be about us, but we're just there to.
I mean, it is kind of, because you act this scene and then you have this connection where someone has, even if the audience hasn't seen it, the cast and crew have seen you act out this scene and they know what you can do a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and also we talk about things we learn on set. I hadn't grasped how physical, film and television is, and how much we rehearsed the scene, and I had a monologue of telling how the locker bay works. So I had been really making sure I had it and all that, and get there, and we rehearse it, and we rehearse, opening the locker and everything, and then all of a sudden, the props guy comes over and he hands me a ball of keys on a string. With one key, he goes, "This is the key. Do not let it go, because I won't be able to ever find it." And I go, "What? How am I going to remember?" And I'm trying to remember these words. So there was a part of me that thought, well, maybe it got cut because I just looked like I was freaked out about it. So you forget that, and you also can't move, and all these little technical. I always say I want to go back to my high school and teach the technique or the technical aspects of being an actor, because you have to hit that take mark.
Yeah.
You rush, because when we rushed,
we ran in, right? We ran in. There was tape on the floor where we had to stop that, and you have to do that without looking at it.
Yeah, because if you
it's
don't,
all about camera angles, so they have the camera set up. And so, we're running in and you're peripherally looking for that tape on the floor, making sure you don't go too far. The whole shot is ruined.
It's like you're out of focus, and they hate you. If you can't hit your marks, they hate you.
You have to hit your marks.
Yeah. Without looking like you're hitting your marks.
Right.
I think every actor should learn how to see the floor without looking down. Yeah.
Their head should be at a 90-degree angle, and they should be able to find it.
Yeah. Well, some actors you could see them look down as they walk in. Keep an eye out for that now. You'll be like, looking down to look for their mark.
Man, my TV watching just got a whole lot slower.
I know. It kind of ruins the magic a little bit. It's
like a scavenger hunt. It's fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My partner now, he's a dermatologist, so he reads with me on a lot of these auditions. He's in Virginia. And he's like, Mark, I can't even watch TV the same way. He goes, now that I've read, because he read Kim's role for this audition. And it's so amazing that, he's like, I know what goes into this now. I know how many you don't get, how many auditions you send off and don't hear anything. So yeah, it's interesting.
I can imagine. All right, Kim, I know you have to go in the next few minutes.
Don't go, Kim, don't go.
Last question for you guys is, do you have any upcoming projects you'd like to share with us? Mark, I know you kind of hit on yours a little bit. Kim, do you have any?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing an indie film. It's untitled right now. It's a director out of South Carolina. Roland Films is his company. And as I said, it's untitled right now, but I'm going to be doing that, I think at the end of June is when we start. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Woohoo! Can't wait.
Up for
You
it.
have to let us know what the title is when you know it, so we can.
I
look it up.
will. I sure will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark,
I
anything else?
I have The Conjuring. I'm seeing that coming up next month, and then a show that is on Netflix that is wildly popular in July comes out. So
Nice.
I was waiting for you to say Bridgerton, and you didn't say it.
It's funny you say that because my mom went to go watch this show, and she had never seen it before. And then she's like, "Well, Mark, she's in Knoxville, Tennessee. She's like, "Well, Mark, you'd have to wear a costume period, piece for that, right? You have to learn an accent." And I go, "Mom, what were you watching?" Turns out she was watching Bridgerton. I go, "Mom, not on that." Very cute.
That's
Very
awesome.
All right. Jeanette, you want to close us out?
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you both. Lots of fun, and we wish you all the luck with your upcoming project.
Well, thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
We're so honored to be here and so honored to be a part of this fan page. It's wonderful for you guys to love a show and organize all this stuff. We appreciate it.
Did you know that Amanda and Jeanette have started 11 of these groups for 11 different
Really?
shows? Yeah.
Wow.
Ten.
Tell us a few of the others.
Oh, let's see. The Resident. We have This Is Us, Gilmore Girls, One Tree Hill, Bridgerton. Gosh, y'all have told me Vampire Diaries, Grey's Anatomy, Schitt's Creek, Friday Night Lights. What's the other one I'm forgetting?
Sanditon.
There's one more. That's what Sanditon's our 11th. What else are we forgetting?
Vampire
I
Diaries,
love
Bridgerton, The Resident.
Oh, our new one, Cruel Summer.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a brand new show that's out. It's really
very
good.
Well,
Yeah,
just
so-
know that the nature of us actors, we have a tendency to be a little self-indulgent. So probably a lot of the people that are on the shows are watching as flies on the wall, these rooms and groups.
We hope so.
Yeah, I think so.
We're
It's
looking
been
for
great.
we're looking for ways that we can have you guys back on and talk to you both again. So just know that we're looking for ways to have you back on again.
Wow. Well, you know what? Maybe the show should have us back on again, don't you think?
There you
Give
go.
us more to talk about.
Yes.
So, definitely.
Well, we really enjoyed it. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you guys.
All right. Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
Bye.